I stood at the check-in counter of Denver International Airport, clutching my duffel bag, trying to keep my hands steady. This trip was supposed to be a small getaway, just a few days for myself, away from everything. I hadn't had a moment like this in years. I had planned it quietly, booked everything on my own, without telling anyone. My family would never understand. They would have criticized me for needing a break. But somehow, they had found out. I handed my passport and ticket to the woman behind the desk. She scanned the documents and then frowned, scanning them again. Her head tilted, confusion spreading across her face. "I'm sorry, Miss Rise," she said, her voice flat. "This ticket was canceled an hour ago." I blinked, not understanding. "What? That's not possible." She turned the screen toward me, pointed the confirmation. "Canceled online. Refunded to a card ending in 4401. My stomach dropped as I recognized the card number. It was my mother's. I staggered away from the counter, trying to regain some sense of control. As I reached for my phone, a text message popped up. It was from her. "Have fun walking home, loser." The words cut deeper than I could have ever anticipated. It wasn't just a sarcastic jab anymore. It was pure, unfiltered cruelty. Frozen in place, I tried to breathe through the tightness in my chest. I had always known that my mother didn't really love me. Not the way she loved my sister, Leah. My sister had always been the golden child, the one who received gifts without question, the one who was praised for doing the bare minimum. She got a car at 16, a condo at 20, and an entire wedding paid for. Me? I had received nothing but lectures about building character and secondhand shoes from church giveaways. And still, I never complained. I had learned to swallow my resentment, to keep moving forward. But this was too much. I walked into the airport bathroom and locked myself in a stall, sitting down on the toilet lid. I cried, not because of the ruined vacation, but because of everything that had led up to this moment. The years of sacrifice, the years of being dismissed, of being made to feel like I didn't matter. I had done everything for my family. And for what? To be treated like this? After a few minutes, I wiped my face, took a deep breath, and stepped out of the bathroom. The text messages kept coming in. Another one from my dad. "Don't be dramatic, Eliza. You can crash at Leah's if you're so desperate." Crash at Leah's. The same sister who had kicked me out of her house in the middle of a snowstorm because her boyfriend didn't want extra people around. The same sister who had always told me I was just born to be a support character. It wasn't the first time she had made me feel like an outsider, and I knew it wouldn't be the last. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened the rideshare app and stood by the curb, trying to figure out if I had enough money for a ride back home. The airport was packed, and the thought of facing anyone I knew was unbearable. Just as I was about to give up, a small white car pulled up. It wasn't my usual ride, but the driver leaned out of the window, offering a kind smile. "You okay? You look like you just got hit by a truck." I couldn't help but laugh, though it came out more like a small cough. "Close," I said, wiping my eyes. "Rough family." The man nodded sympathetically. "I can tell. You need a ride?" I hesitated for just a moment. There was something in the older man's eyes, something kind and genuine. He had the kind of look that told me he wasn't going to ask questions, just listen. I climbed into the car. "Can you just drive for a bit?" I asked, my voice shaky. "Sure," he said. "Where to?" "Nowhere. Just drive." He didn't press me for details. He just drove. For the first time in what felt like forever, I allowed myself to talk, to vent about my parents, about Leah, about how every little victory of mine had been mocked, sabotaged, or taken from me. The man, who eventually told me his name was Harvey, didn't say much. He just listened, nodding every now and then as I poured out everything I had kept bottled up for years. After a while, Harvey pulled into a park and parked the car. He turned to me and said softly, "You know, I have a daughter. She reminds me of you, stronger than she thinks." I smiled at that. "She's lucky to have you." He laughed, but there was sadness in it. "She ran away to New York 5 years ago. I haven't heard from her since. I just hope she's okay." I looked at him, seeing the depth of his love for his daughter, and I realized something. I think she's probably better than okay. For a few moments, we sat in silence, the weight of the past hanging between us. Finally, I pulled out my phone again, not to cry, but to look at something I had kept hidden for a long time. It was a folder labeled Options. Years ago, during college, I had taken a financial planning class just to fill some credits. But what started as a casual interest soon became an obsession. I worked odd jobs, double shifts, even interned for free just to learn. Slowly, I started investing. I bought stocks, I bought real estate, all in secret. My family had no idea. They thought I was still struggling, driving my old Corolla, living in a basement suite. They had no clue that beneath the surface, I was building an empire. I looked at the numbers, $78 million in assets. And now they knew nothing. They didn't know the true me. They didn't know I had been quietly amassing wealth for years, building a life they never saw coming. I looked at Harvey, a smile tugging at my lips. I think I'm done being their daughter. He tilted his head, looking at me curiously. What do you mean? I think, I said softly, looking out the window, I'm about to become their landlord. And with that, I sent the message that would change everything. Don't worry, Mom, I'll be home soon. The ride back to the suburbs felt different this time. Not because of the air or the traffic, but because for the first time in my life, I wasn't returning as their doormat. I wasn't returning to play the role of the daughter they could trample on. I was returning as someone else entirely. As Harvey dropped me off near the corner of my parents' street, I smiled and thanked him. He patted the dash of the car and smiled. You go be the storm, Eliza. I walked the last block to their house, the same house that had once been the source of all my pain. The beige siding, the overgrown lawn, Leah's white SUV in the driveway. Everything looked the same, but now it was mine. I unlocked the mailbox, pulling out a stack of envelopes, most of them addressed to Eliza Properties, LLC. Among them were rent checks, including the ones from my parents' house. I walked up the path and into the house without knocking. My mom looked up from the couch, frowning. Why are you here? Dad came out of the kitchen, chewing loudly on a sandwich. I thought we canceled your trip. Shouldn't you be sulking somewhere? Leah sat at the kitchen island, filing her nails like she always did when she thought she was untouchable. Thought you'd be crying in the terminal by now. Guess the charity flight didn't fall through, huh? I set my bag down slowly and pulled out a plain manila envelope. What's that? Dad asked, his face scrunching in confusion. Eviction notice, I said coolly, placing one copy on the counter, one on the fridge, and one on the stairs. You're 3 months behind on rent under the agreement you signed with Eliza Properties, LLC. That's me. I'm terminating the lease, Mom scoffed. You don't own this house. Oh, I said, tapping the deed. Purchased under a private trust 2 years ago. I let you stay out of pity, but the text you sent earlier, calling me a loser, that's not a tenant I feel safe renting to anymore. Their faces twisted in disbelief as I played a voice memo, a recording of them scheming to cancel my trip and leave me stranded. I had hidden a baby monitor in my bag last week just to hear what they'd say when they thought I was gone. You spied on us? Mom gasped. No, I said. I documented my property being occupied by emotionally abusive squatters. Dad growled, his anger palpable. You can't do this. I already did, I replied, stepping closer. And here's the proof. I pulled out my phone and showed them the rent records, the legal trail, the lease violations. They were trapped in their lies. Leah lunged over the counter, her eyes wild. You said the rent was delayed. Only if you hadn't laughed when I tripped down the stairs last Christmas, I reminded her, my voice calm but firm. She didn't have a response. I walked upstairs to my old bedroom, now a guest room, and found my childhood things shoved into a plastic bin. Ribbons, old sketchbooks, college letters, all forgotten, all discarded like I had been. I took a photo of it, then grabbed the bin and tossed it into the trash. The frames on the wall, all of Leah, none of me, were just another reminder. I'll give you 3 days, I said as I turned to leave. After that, I filed with the sheriff. As I left their house for the last time, I felt lighter than I had in years. The next week, I filed the eviction notice with the sheriff, and by Thursday morning, they were gone. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. And as I drove back to my life, my condo overlooking a serene lake, my business, my son, I knew that I had finally become the person they never thought I could be. And I was never going to let them hurt me again.